Country music in the 1980s lived and died by radio programmers. They held enormous power over the format. When they added a song, it climbed the chart. When they passed on it, it stayed buried. They managed risk for a living, and they were right most of the time. But not always. Across the decade, some of the strongest country records ever cut got dismissed, passed over, or moved too slowly through programmer desks to matter. These are 10 of them. 10 songs from the 1980s that radio refused to touch, wrote off, or was simply too slow to recognize. Every one of them went to number 1 anyway. Number 10. The Oak Ridge Boys, Elvira, 1981. Dallas Frazier writes this song in 1966. Rodney Crowell records it in 1978, and it goes nowhere. When the Oak Ridge Boys bring it back in 1981, the version radio hears opens with a bass vocal rolling Papa Mo Mo through the chorus. Traditional country programmers hear novelty, not a hit. They call it too strange for the format, a gimmick dressed up as a single. The Oak Ridge Boys release it anyway on MCA Records. It breaks the contemporary sales record for a country single. It goes to number 1 on the Billboard Country chart, then follows with a number 5 on the Pop Hot 100 and a Grammy for Best Country Vocal by a duo or group. Then it wins both the CMA and the ACM Single of the Year. The song they called Too Strange for the Format wins every major award the format has to offer. Number 9. Barbara Mandrell, I Was Country. When Country Wasn't Cool, 1981. Country music in 1981 is 2 years into the urban cowboy era. Synthesizers are pushing out steel guitars. Crossover pop productions are standard, and program directors treat traditional sounds as commercial liabilities worth avoiding. Mandrell records a song that names this tension directly, with George Jones standing next to her on the guest vocal. Some programmers see it as too self-referential, a song that talks about the format instead of living inside it, which they regard as a novelty with a short shelf life. They schedule other records and wait. Listeners keep requesting this one by name until the pressure becomes undeniable. It goes to number 1 on the Billboard Country chart and stays one of the defining country statements of the decade. The title says exactly what a generation of country fans had been waiting for someone to say out loud. Number 8. The Judds, Mama, He's Crazy, 1984. Naomi Judd hands producer Brent Maher a homemade cassette demo in 1982 after nursing his daughter back to health at a Nashville hospital. He puts the tape in his car for a full month before he listens. When he finally plays it on the way to work, he is on the phone calling them before he reaches his parking spot. But that one convert is not enough. The Judds demo tape is turned down by nearly every label in Nashville before Curb Records connects them to RCA Records. They are a mother and teenage daughter with acoustic guitars and close harmonies in a decade when polished crossover pop owns country radio. Mama He's Crazy is their debut single on RCA. It goes to number 1 in 1984 and starts a run of 14 consecutive number 1 hits, a record no country act has matched across an entire decade. Number 7. Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, 1983. The Bee Gees write this song as an R&B track originally intended for Marvin Gaye. Barry Gibb gives it to Kenny Rogers instead, and Rogers spends 4 days in a Los Angeles studio trying to make it work. After 4 days, he tells Gibb directly, "I don't even like this song anymore." Country radio has little interest in a Bee Gees composition entering the format in the first place. Then Dolly Parton walks into the studio from the floor below, and the song becomes something neither Rogers nor Gibb anticipated. In November 1983, it reaches number 1 on the Billboard Country chart, knocks Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart off the top of the Pop Hot 100, and sits at number 1 on the Adult Contemporary chart simultaneously, a triple number 1 across 3 separate charts. The song Rogers almost quit working on becomes the biggest-selling country single of 1983. Number 6. Jerry Reed, She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft, 1982. The word shaft in the title causes some radio stations to stop and flag it before a single verse has aired. The double meaning is obvious enough that program directors in conservative markets refuse to add it to rotation. The irony is that the song is barely suggestive. It is a spoken word comedy built around a man getting legally destroyed in a divorce settlement. A judge awarding his wife the house, both cars, the television, full custody of the kids, alimony, child support, and court fees that adds up to more than this cowboy makes. The hesitation at certain stations dissolves the moment listeners hear what the song actually is. Reed's third career #1 arrives in the late summer of 1982. It is his last chart topper, written by Tim Du Bois, who would later go on to run Arista Nashville. Number 5. George Strait, The Chair, 1985. This song has no chorus. It is built entirely on verses. A man at a bar, a woman sitting in his chair, a conversation that deepens one line at a time, and a twist at the end. Radio programmers who want a repeatable hook do not know what to do with a record that refuses to give them one. Hank Cochran and Dean Dillon finish writing it in under 20 minutes after an all-night session. The Chair enters the Billboard Country Chart in August 1985 at number 65. It rises slowly, week by week, over nearly 4 months without any obvious hook to drive the ads. On December 21, 1985, it reaches number 1, George Strait's 7th chart topper on MCA Records. CMT later names it one of the 100 greatest country songs ever recorded. The song that entered at number 65 without a chorus is now certified platinum. Number 4. The Highwaymen. Highwaymen, 1985. By 1985, Willie Nelson is still on country radio. Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Chris Christopherson are not. The outlaw country movement that Waylon and Willie had launched a decade earlier had redefined what the format could sound like, but by the mid-80s, radio had moved on from all of it. Willie Nelson's biographer, Joe Nick Petoskey, documents the purpose of this collaboration directly. The project forms to bolster the careers of 4 giants old enough to be regarded as legends, but who are no longer considered suitable for contemporary country radio. Jimmy Webb writes the song in 1977 after a vivid dream about a soul moving through 4 separate reincarnated lives. Cash takes the highwayman, Christopherson takes the sailor, Waylon takes the dam builder, Willie takes the starship captain. No harmonies, no compromises. One voice per verse, 4 Men Radio no longer wants, one record released on Columbia Records. It goes to number 1 on the Billboard Country Chart and wins the Grammy for Best Country Song. The format that said they were done puts them at the top of it. Number 3. Dwight Yoakam and Buck Owens, Streets of Bakersfield, 1988. Multiple Nashville labels tell Dwight Yoakam his sound is not marketable before Reprise signs him in 1986. His honky-tonk style, rooted in the same Bakersfield sound that Buck Owens had built in the 1960s, is exactly what most 1980s program directors are moving away from. Buck Owens, meanwhile, has not had a number 1 since 1972. The song itself was written by Homer Joy, who walked holes in his shoes on the streets of Bakersfield before he wrote it, originally recorded by Owens in 1972 with little success. In January 1988, Yoakam and Owens perform it together on a CMA television special. 2 disc jockeys tape the performance and start airing it on their own stations before the song is even officially released. Yoakam puts it out in June 1988. It reaches number 1 on the Billboard Country Chart on October 15, 1988. It is Yoakam's first number 1. It is Owens' first in 16 years. The format that said both of them were done puts them both back at the top. Number 2. Randy Travis. On the Other Hand, 1985 and 1986. Warner Brothers Nashville releases this as Travis's debut single in July 1985. It peaks at number 67 on the Billboard Country Chart. Radio moves on. The label releases a second single, 1982, which climbs to number 6. The internal assessment at Warner after that is that Travis does not yet have a single strong enough for radio again. But the promotion team notices something. Cassette sales around the On the Other Hand single are unusually strong, suggesting demand that radio is not delivering. They go back to the song they already passed on. It is re-released on April 21, 1986. By July 26, 1986, the same song, unchanged, is number 1. It is Travis's first number 1 and the beginning of a run that produces 16 chart toppers across his career. Radio ignored it the first time. The second time, It is the biggest country single of the summer. Number 1. George Jones. He Stopped Loving Her Today, 1980. Jones records this song across 18 months beginning in 1978, sometimes only a few lines at a time, because his addiction makes finishing it in a single session impossible. His producer Billy Sherrill, one of the architects of the Nashville sound and one of the most decorated producers in the history of Columbia Records, introduces him to it in 1978. Jones hates it. He refuses to learn the melody and sings it to the tune of "Help Me Make It Through the Night" instead. When Sherrill finally plays him the completed recording with its string arrangement and spoken recitation, Jones looks him in the eye and says, "Nobody will buy that morbid son of a bitch." Radio programmers who hear it tend to agree. Jones has not had a number 1 single in 6 years, since The Door in 1974. The single goes out in April 1980. Within months, it is the biggest country song of the year. It wins the CMA Single of the Year in both 1980 and 1981. It wins the CMA Song of the Year in both 1980 and 1981. It wins the ACM Song of the Year. It wins the Grammy for Best Male Country Vocal Performance. It becomes only the 2nd song in CMA history to win Song of the Year twice in a row, prompting a rule change that bars previous winners from being nominated again. No country record released before or since has swept every major award in a single 12-month window the way this one does. The song George Jones called "Too Morbid for Anyone to Buy" is, by near universal consensus, the greatest country record ever made. Radio manages risk. A sound that has not been proven carries no guarantee of return on every spin it takes away from something safer. A record without a track record is a gamble, and program directors get fired for losing gambles. Every song on this list looked like a gamble in the moment. Some entered the Billboard Country Chart at number 65. One peaked at number 67 the first time it went out. One was written by the Bee Gees for Marvin Gaye. The audiences had different ideas every time, and the chart made the case that radio eventually had to hear. Radio catches up. It just needs the audience to prove it first.